The top stories tonight in Y News. Some businesses in the country laud the easing of restrictions under the alert level systems, but the World Health Organization cautions the government on relaxing quarantine restrictions.
President Rodrigo Duterte is not interested in the outcome of the Senate investigations on Pharmally. Meanwhile, cabinet members will have to ask for the president's clearance before attending Senate hearings.
The lawyer of Michael Yang assures the former economic presidential advisor has no plans to leave the Philippines. Issuance of a lookout order, not necessary, says its legal counsel. The Department of Agriculture has assured its assistance to Taal fisherfolk affected by the recent typhoon and the continuing pandemic.
Afghan women pose in traditional clothing amidst new Taliban rules.
Apple releases emergency software update against recent malicious spyware installed through iMessage. Good evening, Philippines and the world. We are now reporting live from Quezon City. Today is Tuesday, September 14, 2021. I'm Herlene Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Tino.
First in the news. The Metro Manila Council shortens curfew hours as the National Capital Region pilots the implementation of the alert level system starting Thursday. The Tourism Department, however, clarifies that leisure travel is prohibited during alert level 4. Meanwhile, some restaurant owners lauded the government for allowing dine-in in most alert level system. Asher Kadapan Jr. explains why live. Yes, Asher?
Starting Thursday, September 16, curfew hours in Metro Manila will run from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. from the current 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. restriction. Its implementation will commence simultaneously with the start of the pilot testing of the new alert level system in the metropolis. The alert level system is a different policy where the Department of Health declares a particular alert level to every local government units depending on their respective rate of COVID-19 transmission and hospital bed utilization. The alert level 5 has the strictest restrictions equivalent to the guidelines being implemented during enhanced community quarantine, while the alert level 4 only prohibits mobility of persons below 18 years old and over 65 years old, as well as those with comorbidity and pregnant women, with the exception of essential activities. Some establishments, however, are allowed to operate with a 10% indoor activity to fully vaccinated individuals and 30% outdoor activity regardless of vaccination status. Travel within Metro Manila is allowed, but traveling to other places outside the capital region will depend on the protocol set by the receiving LGUs. The Department of Tourism, however, clarifies that leisure travel is prohibited during alert level 4. Despite the restrictions, a group of restaurant owners expressed their gratitude in allowing dine-in under alert level 4.
Well, natutuwa po kami dahil kahit 10% naman, it's better than zero. Dahil kahit 10% pwede na po naming papasukin yung mga waiters, yung mga restaurant na wala pong delivery masyado, at least pwede na muna mag-umpisa.
As the alert level eases, venue capacity increases. For alert level 3, the venue capacity is raised to 30% with additional 10% to those with safety seal certification from the Department of Trade and Industry. Alert level 2, however, allows 50% venue capacity with additional 10% for establishment with safety seals, while alert level 1 allows full operation while still observing minimum public health standards. The government will implement the new restriction policy in Metro Manila until September 30. If this will be effective, this will be done in other regions. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque assures the public that the new classifications would benefit businesses.
Maganda rito po ay hinahayaan natin magbukas yung mas malaking porsyento na ating ekonomiya, no, na sa ilalim po ng GCQ. Ibig sabihin po, mga kababayan, mabuting balita ito, makapagtatrabaho na po ang marami sa atin. Hindi pa rin po lahat, pero mas marami po ngayon makapagtrabaho. Kasama na rin po dyan yung mga restaurants, mga personal care services. No? At pati po ang mga simbahan ay meron ng limited na 10% indoor worship. No?
DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez, on the other hand, explains that the new policy may result in a fast downtrend of alert levels.
Binago ng kaunti itong mga parameters na to at napakita na by applying itong mga alert level ay mas marami actually makakababa, let's say from level 4 to level 3. No? Ibig sabihin, kung a-apply natin yung current parameters sa MECQ, palagay ko mas tatagal pa tayo sa MECQ. Pero ibig sabihin, because of the different adjustment in the parameter levels, yung level 4, mas madaling makakapasa sa level 3 at magde-escalate. Ganun din, papunta sa level 2. So may propensity to have lower classification, and ibig sabihin, mas marami ring bukas na negosyo.
That's the latest on my end for tonight. Back to you, Arlene.
Thank you, Asher Kadapan Jr. reporting live. World Health Organization Philippines believes it is not yet time to relax its community quarantine restrictions in the National Capital Region. Aiko Miguel details why.
There's a significant vaccination coverage in the National Capital Region, which is now at 60.5% or 5.93 million of the 9.8 million of the population eligible for COVID-19 vaccination. But World Health Organization Country Representative Dr. Rabindra Abiyasing has said this number is not adequate at this point to relax the current quarantine restrictions in the region.
You may recraft the terminology, but basically what we are advising is make sure that those restrictions are followed, that we don't relax too much, because we are not in a position where we can relax and experience a further worsening of this transmission level, because our health systems are just holding up.
WHO warns the government to be cautious in easing restrictions amid the threat of highly transmissible Delta variant.
If there is a further increase in the current transmission levels, it could lead to an overwhelming of the hospital systems. That's why we need to be very careful in calibrating how we respond to the current situation.
Dr. Abiyasinghe also said the public should understand that whatever quarantine classifications is being implemented, there is continuing transmission of the COVID-19 virus. That is why it is also important to reduce movement of people. On the other hand, Dr. Abiyasinghe welcomes the anticipated arrival of COVID-19 vaccines from the COVAX facility.
We are looking at increasing vaccine allocations for the Philippines. Actually, we have some good news this morning. COVAX has allocated a further 10 million doses to come to the Philippines within the next few weeks. We expect much larger consignments to come within this third and fourth quarters.
Dr. Abiyasinghe also said they will be mobilizing larger quantities of vaccines in order to achieve at least 20% of the country's population protection before the end of the year. WHO also urges the government to ramp up COVID-19 vaccination coverage among the elderly or ATOS sector. Based on September 13 data, 4.17 million senior citizens have completed their COVID-19 shots, while 3.47 million have received their first dose. Currently, 17 million out of the 110 million target population in the Philippines have been fully vaccinated. Dr. Abiyasinghe also stressed WHO's stand that it is not yet time to administer booster shots. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the implementation of pilot physical classes will not only depend on the approval of President Rodrigo Duterte. The Department of Education, or DepEd, says they are also taking in consideration the local government units and the perspective of the parents. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
Education Secretary Leonor Briones insists that the government needs to be cautious in deciding whether to allow face-to-face classes in some areas amid the COVID-19 pandemic. This was her response to ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro's question on this slow resumption of physical classes.
Una, kailan pumayag ang local government units? Pangalawa, kailan pumayag ang parents? Hindi pwedeng mag face-to-face na hindi payag ang parents. Pangatlo, yung aming facilities mismo kailangan handa. Pang-apat, kailangan yung yung strict compliance ng mga nagsusupply at saka nagsuservice ng mga eskwelahan.
The DepEd is eyeing 120 public and private schools for the pilot testing of physical classes. Meanwhile, some schools in Metro Manila are now reconfiguring their classrooms in preparation for the eventual limited face-to-face classes. Following the guidelines of the Interagency Task Force and DepEd, Dagat-Dagatan Elementary School in Malabon already installed foot baths, thermal scanner, disinfecting stations, and barrier in each table.
Ito po ay aming ginawa in case na magkaroon ng pagkakataon na payagan tayo ng ating pamahalaan, ng AITF, ng Department of Education, na magkaroon ng face-to-face reconfiguration na aming hinahanda ito. Bawat room po ay pwedeng lagyan ng 15 na pupils na maaring pumasok dito sa ating paaralan kung sakali at payagan tayo.
Meanwhile, Taguig is also preparing in case they will be included in the pilot phase of physical classes. However, according to DepEd Secretary Leonor Briones, the department is still waiting for the approval of President Rodrigo Duterte before it allows students to conduct in-person learning.
Gusto namin na masiguro at titingnan ito ng Department of Health, ini-inspect ito ng Department of Health, sinigurado namin na ang facilities ng mga eskwelahan na gamitin for face-to-face. We already asked the permission of the President dahil maliwanag ang batas kung mag-open ka ng classes ay ang President ang mag-decide. We are waiting for his final decision.
Private schools have previously requested to have separate guidelines for limited face-to-face classes, but according to DepEd,
ang pagbubukas ng klase lalong-lalo na sa face-to-face ngayong panahon na ito ay hindi lamang education concern, kung hindi ito rin ay isang public health concern. If there are other conditions that are very specific to the private schools that can be surfaced in the pilot implementation. But at this point, the matter of face-to-face classes is not solely in the hands of the Department of Education.
Meanwhile, DepEd has extended the enrollment period for the school year 2021 to 2022 until the end of September. All public schools are directed to accept late enrollees upon submission of modified enrollment and survey forms. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, President Rodrigo Duterte does not care whatever happens to Pharmally Pharmaceuticals in the Senate hearings. Meanwhile, he already directed his cabinet members to ask for his permission first before attending the Senate probe on the pandemic deals of his administration. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
The Duterte administration has already completed its obligation of procuring the necessary personal protective equipment and other medical supplies under the Bayanihan to Heal as One or Republic Act No. 11469. Thus, he is not interested anymore on what will happen to Pharmally Pharmaceutical Corporation after being investigated by the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee chaired by Senator Richard Gordon. Pharmally is being dragged to the alleged overpriced pandemic goods of the administration. They are also being linked to businessman Michael Yang, President Duterte's former economic advisor.
Wala akong pakialam niya Pharmally na gutos ang tawag dito sa kumot-kumuti ng you can crumple Pharmally. Wala kaming pakialam diyan. Basta yung ang pakialam namin, nag-order kami, dumating, tama yung nag-order. Tapos, ang presyo was negotiated.
However, the chief executive has directed his cabinet members to seek clearance first from him before attending the Senate hearing.
This time, I will require every cabinet member to clear with me any invitation. And if I think that he will be called for walang silbi except to harass, to be berated in front of the Republic, ay hintuin ko na yan at pagbawalan ko na.
Malacanang said the chief executive has a legal basis to do this, citing a Supreme Court ruling.
We have the decision in Neri where the Supreme Court said na talagang hindi dapat i-contempt kapag hindi po pina-attend sa isang hearing ang isang miyembro ng gabinete alinsunod po sa pag-uutos ng presidente mismo because they are alter egos of the president. So there's legal basis for that kung gagawin po yan ng presidente.
Meanwhile, President Duterte also said he will campaign against Senator Gordon should he run for public office in the next elections. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara has signed the lookout order against President Duterte's former economic advisor Michael Yang. But for Yang's camp, there is no need for such an order, as Yang has no plans to leave the country. Arlene Delgado will tell us why.
The camp of former presidential economic advisor Michael Yang acknowledges the authority of the Senate to request an immigration lookout bulletin order against the subjects of its investigation. However, Yang's counsel, Attorney Raymond Fortun, says the order is totally unnecessary. According to Fortun, Yang has been willing to cooperate in the Senate investigation, adding that his client has no plans of leaving the country during the course of the Senate inquiry. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara has released today the lookout order against Yang and 8 other individuals, including former Budget Undersecretary Lloyd Christopher Lau and 6 officers of Pharmally Pharmaceutical Corporation. The Secretary adds the Bureau of Immigration will make the proper arrangements for monitoring the travel movements of those who are abroad. The Justice Department clarifies that the lookout order is for monitoring purposes only should the individuals attempt to leave the country. Only the courts can issue a whole departure order against individuals who are facing charges. Arlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippines today logged 18,056 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the nationwide case count to 2,266,066. In its latest bulletin, the Department of Health, or DOH, said the country currently has 177,670 active cases, 85.8% of which are mild, 9.5% are asymptomatic, 2.66% are moderate, 1.4% are severe, and 0.6% are critical. The DOH noted in its report that all accredited testing laboratories in the country were operational on September 12, but 12 laboratories failed to submit data on time. Meanwhile, total recoveries rose to 2,052,867 after 20,542 more patients recovered from the viral disease. The death toll climbed to 35,529 with 222 new fatalities. Meanwhile, the overall global COVID-19 caseload has reached 225,319,452, while the deaths have surged to 4,640,827, according to the Johns Hopkins University. The U.S. is the worst-hit country with the world's highest number of cases and deaths at 41,221,315 and 662,131 respectively, according to the CSSE, followed by India and Brazil.
The Department of Agriculture, or DA, has assured its assistance to Taal fisher folks affected by the recent typhoon. Ray Pelayo will tell us why live. Yes, Ray, good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening, Will. Around 1,000 fish cages were affected in Taal Lake, Batangas after Tropical Cyclone Julina crossed the country recently. But the cyclone did not affect the supply of tilapia in the country, which is commonly grown in the lake. The problem, according to Mario Balazon, the director of the Taal Lake Aquaculture Alliance Incorporated, is the low demand from the consumers.
Because of the pandemic, maraming nawala ng trabaho. Purchasing power ng tao, baba talaga, wala talagang pera. At saka yung mobility ng tao, medyo kontrolado.
Balazon has appealed for help to feed the families of the small-scale fish producers still affected by the pandemic. Through UNTV, the concern was brought to the attention of the Department of Agriculture. Agriculture Undersecretary Cristina Evangelista assured that they will help the fisher folk to sell their produce.
We have to make sure na makarating po sa palengke yung mga isdang yan, whether sa ating mga pampublikong palengke or through Kadiwa, yun po ang ating gagawin ngayon.
The Department of Agriculture has reiterated its call to the public to acquire products from farmers and fisher folks. Pacquiao, Will.
Yes, thank you very much, Ray Pelorio, for that live report.
The Commission on Elections has shown to the public the ongoing refurbishment of the vote counting machines to be used in 2022 elections. According to the poll body, it is possible that the 2022 elections will be the last polls in which such machines would be used. COMELEC is also optimistic to have the vote counting machine or VCM refurbishment completed by November. Dante Amento tells us why.
Out of the 97,345 vote counting machines or VCMs owned by the Commission on Elections, over 36,000 have been already refurbished through Smartmatic Information Management in Santa Rosa, Laguna. Refurbishment process includes replacement of complementary metal oxide semiconductor or CMOS battery, checking of the machine accessories, and diagnostic test, among others. COMELEC assures all the machines will be in good condition before the 2022 polls. COMELEC Director James Jimenez says they are eyeing to finish the refurbishment of all the machines in November.
Yung mga makinang sinustore na natin yan, dumaan yan sa actually two levels, no? I mean, using your terminology. First, yung level ng physical repair sa kanya, and then second, yung hardware acceptance test na sinasabi natin, and a third nga, yung stress testing natin. So basically, tatlo yan, no? Tatlo. Hindi pa natin pinakita dahil hindi pa natin ginagawa yung pag-i-install ng configuration software. Kasi right now, nasa refurbishment stage pa lang tayo. And the refurbishment is expected to be completed around November.
Meanwhile, Commissioner Marlon Casquejo disclosed they hope that the 2022 polls will be the last to use the 9-year-old machines.
Well, sana ito na yung last kasi it's a 9-year-old machine this coming 2022. Although we refurbish it, by then, siguro after 2022, may bagong technology na tayo in the conduct of elections. Baka meron na tayong internet voting or baka meron na tayong DRE, direct recording electronic. So, tingnan natin. So, when it comes to this vote counting machine, we can still use this for any possible special elections. Kunyari magkakaroon ng plebiscito or special elections in a certain municipality, we can still use this vote counting machine. Sobra-sobra na to.
Casquejo further added they are also expecting the software for the machines will be transferred to the COMELEC this month. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines and Philippine National Police ensure that no terror threat is being monitored in the country. This comes after the Japan government issued warning to their citizens in 6 countries in Southeast Asia, including the Philippines. Leia Ilagan reports.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines and Philippine National Police will not lower their guards despite the absence of any threat in the country. AFP spokesperson Colonel Ramon Zagala in a statement said they take seriously all received reports that pertains to security matters, especially on terrorism, while PNP Chief Police General Guillermo Eleazar assures the police force is ready and continuously doing their security monitoring.
Noon pa man ay patuloy ang aming intelligence monitoring, especially after 9/11 attack in the US and the Marawi City incident, at nanatiling maigting ating pagpugnayan sa iba't ibang bansa laban sa terorismo through information sharing and a strategic partnership in dealing with terror groups.
Zagala adds, as per their last review, our threat level is at moderate classification. Eleazar further said the police continues to work with military to secure the country and ensure the peace and order of the community.
Kasama dito ang pagpapalakas ng ugnayan ng inyong kapulisan sa iba't ibang komunidad at stakeholders upang matiyak na hindi tayo malulustan sa anumang plano ng mga teroristang grupo sa anumang lugar sa ating bansa.
The AFP and PNP issued the statement after Japan Ministry of Foreign Affairs warned their citizens on the suicide bombing attack in 6 countries in Southeast Asia, including the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Myanmar. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
In other news, the camp of Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder Apollo Quiboloy denies making accusations against Senator Manny Pacquiao. This was after the senator filed a 100 million peso libel and cyber libel complaint against the church leader, stemming from Quiboloy's claim that Pacquiao misused 3.5 billion pesos for the unfinished Sarangani Sports Training Center. Pacquiao said Quiboloy is using his power and influence to spread fake news and false information. According to his counsels, Quiboloy only exercised his right to inquire and make commentaries about the actions of public officials like Pacquiao. They believe the complaint may be considered as Pacquiao's political move for the upcoming elections. The religious leader has yet to receive the copy of the complaint, but his lawyers say he is ready to respond. Quiboloy's camp is set to file a counter affidavit before the Makati City Prosecutor's Office.
And for the news abroad, the sale of one of Australia's largest firms is a step closer to being realized after a consortium of infrastructure investors tabled a non-binding offer of $23.6 billion to take over Sydney Airport. Sydney Aviation Alliance, a bidding consortium led by IFM investors, has allowed an increase of 3.6% to its second offer, making the third takeover bid at $8.75 per share after the airport group had rejected the previous offer in mid-July. As Sydney Airport is the sole publicly listed airport operator of Australia, an acquisition would be a long-term wager on the COVID-19 pandemic hard-hit travel sector. Meanwhile, Australia plans to welcome travelers by opening its borders once the country has reached the milestone of bringing 80% of their adult population to get full shots of coronavirus vaccines. A law to prevent foreign interference has been submitted by the Singaporean authorities to fight domestic political interference online. RK Dorca will tell us why live. Yes, RK, please go ahead.
Mariel, the Foreign Interference or Countermeasures Bill will give officials the power to order social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Google to disclose and block harmful information that may be carried out by foreign entities in the country. The Home Affairs Ministry stresses that they've seen many instances in the past years where social media communications were used to mount hostile information campaigns against other countries. If social media companies fail to comply with this request, internet service providers may be ordered to block the app's contents locally. They may also be ordered to block downloading applications used to spread such content. However, Mariel, the Home Affairs Ministry added that the new legislation does not apply to its citizens and other foreign individuals airing their views on political matters unless they are agents of a foreign principal. Mariel?
RK, what pushes the Singaporean government the need to propose this kind of law in the first place?
Well, Mariel, Singapore's ministers have long defended the need for this law, stating that the country is especially vulnerable to fake news and hostile information campaigns, given that it is plugged into global trade as a financial hub, has a multi-ethnic population, and enjoys widespread internet access. Back to you, Mariel.
Thank you, RK Llorca, for that live report. Women in Afghanistan are sharing photos of themselves wearing colorful traditional attires, a stark contrast to the Taliban's black Islamic garments. Marvin Finn will tell us why live. Yes, Marvy, please go ahead.
Mariel, the active protest followed after the Taliban announced new rules on women's education and dress code over the weekend. According to the Taliban's higher education minister Abdul Baqi Haqqani, universities will now be segregated by gender and the Islamic dress code will be mandatory. This has caused Afghan women like Dr. Bahar Jalali to take to social media wearing traditional dresses and insisting that black burqas and the niqab are not part of Afghan culture. Afghan netizens describe the traditional attire as colorful, modest, practical, and not the dark outfits resembling dementors that the Taliban are imposing on women. Afghan women's traditional outfits are comprised of a long-sleeve dress with a full skirt called kameez or firak and loose trousers or known as partag. Furthermore, Haqqani suggested that universities could ask women to wear niqabs if there is ever a need for men to deliver classes to women. Mariel?
Thank you, Marvin Finn, reporting live. Apple released an urgent software update for all gadgets after researchers have identified a security flaw that hackers can easily infiltrate. Joselito Liquido will tell us why live. Joselito?
Yes, Mariel. Citizen Lab researchers identified that Apple's current security system allows hackers to secretly install spyware via iMessage through its zero-click exploit. The spyware does not need a link to be activated. Hackers will simply send an image or GIF through iMessage, and from there, eavesdrop, steal data from the devices including iPhones, iPads, MacBooks, and Apple Watches. The Israeli-made spyware was by NSO Group is called Pegasus. It is known to spy on journalists and human rights activists in multiple countries. Specifically, Pegasus was used to infect the iPhone of a Saudi activist through an image file sent via iMessage. Apple representative Ivan Birstich states that the Apple has since released an urgent emergency update named iOS 14.8, which is recommended for all users in order to fix critical flaws in its software security. Birstich added that the security threat is unlikely to affect the majority of its average users, as spyware like Pegasus often targets specific individuals. However, all gadgets are still vulnerable. An NSO spokesperson on an emailed statement regarding the matter has released no details, only stating that their intention is intelligence life-saving technologies against terror and crime. For now, Apple assures that the latest iOS 14.8 update will keep users from being infected by this particular exploit. Mariel?
All right, thank you for that live report, Joselito Liquido. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Mariela Toza reporting live from Perth, Australia. Good evening.
And before we close, we will leave you with the final word, giving glory to God. From the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1, it says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." And those are the reasons behind the news, September 14, 2021. I'm Herlene Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Well, natutuwa po kami dahil kahit 10% naman, it's better than zero. Dahil kahit 10% pwede na po naming papasukin yung mga waiters. Yung mga restaurant na wala pong delivery masyado, at least pwede na muna mag-umpisa.
If there is a further increase in the current transmission levels, it could lead to an overwhelming of the hospital systems. That's why we need to be very careful in calibrating how we respond to the current situation.
Una, kailan pumayag ang local government units? Pangalawa, kailan pumayag ang parents? Hindi pwedeng mag face-to-face na hindi payag ang parents.
Wala akong pakialam niya Pharmally na gutos ang tawag dito sa kumot-kumuti ng you can crumple Pharmally. Wala kami pakialam diyan. Basta yung ang pakialam namin, nag-order kami, dumating, tama yung nag-order. Tapos ang presyo was negotiated.